Welcome back, class. Now we're going to talk about operations with decimals. Some of this will be a review for you, and that's okay. So we're going to take a look at how to add and subtract first, and then we're going to look at multiplication and dividing. Addition and subtraction are almost identical. The only thing that we have to really worry about is making sure that our decimal point lines up. We want place value to be the precursor to all of this. So it doesn't matter my order here for my addition. I just am going to make sure I write these vertically. So I'm going to make sure I write it 36.12 or 36 and 1200ths. And then my decimal point then, this tells me that my 5 and 793 thousandths, that has to line up as well. So it's all about lining our decimal point up and making sure every number here is in line column-wise. So I have my ones lined up, I have my tens lined up, my tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. The only other thing I'm going to have you add in is if it's to the left of the decimal, nothing to add in here. Obviously, there is 0 here that I would add. You wouldn't put this as 05.793. But behind the decimal, we do need place value to fill. Okay? That way we have everything lined up, and it's a nice, neat vertical addition. Very simple. Now you just add. 0 and 3 is 3. 2 and 9 is 11. Carry your 1. 1 and 7 is 9. Decimal point stays in the same spot. 5 and 6 is 11. Carry your 1. 4. 41 and 913 thousandths is your final solution. The same is true over here with subtraction. So I'm going to start with my leading term. 5 and 2 thousandths. I'm going to line up my decimal. So I have 4.3 or 4 and 3 tenths. I do need to fill everything behind the decimal with zeros if there is nothing behind it. Okay, so if there's nothing to the right of that last digit, that 4.3, I have to fill them in with zeros, and now I can subtract. 2 minus 0 is 0. Obviously, 0 minus 0 is 0. Now here I can't subtract, so I have to borrow, as you've done in prior years. Going back to elementary school, so I'm going to borrow a 10, move it in here. 10 minus 3 is 7. Decimal point drops down, and then 4. Yes, we do want you to write in the 0 there too. 4 minus 4 is 0. So it's 702 thousandths, or 0.702. Multiplication division, okay? Multiplication division, we do have to worry about decimal points as well, okay? So our rule for multiplication is we want to count the decimal points, okay? We want to count the place value here. What I mean by that is how many places in the first term, 0.91 or 91 hundredths, how many places behind the 0 do I actually have filled? I have 2 here, and in the 2.7 or 2 and 7 tenths, I have 1, okay? So right now, I'm just going to make a note together. That's 3 spaces. We'll bring that back in a minute, okay? So now when we multiply, we are going to multiply these without the decimal. So I'm going to make it 91 times 27. This is your old school way of multiplication. This is the old algorithm that I and the rest of your teachers actually grew up learning. And now you just multiply as you've done in the past. 1 times 1, your ones column. So 7 times 1 is 7. 7 times 9 is 63. You're going to, because now you're moving to your tens column for the 2, you're going to drop a 0 in this place. 2 times 1, and you multiply as normal, is 2. And then 2 times 9 is 18. We know that multiplication is just repeated addition, so we have to add these terms together. So we have 7, we have 5, we have 14, carry the 1, and a 2. So your digits here are going to be a 2, 4, 5, and 7. The question is that our answer is not going to be 2,457. We actually have to put these decimals back in. So I'm going to then move my decimal back to the left 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. So it would fall between the 2 and the 4, therefore making my final solution 2.457, or 2 and 457 thousandths. Division is different. Division, we need to know that there are 2 pieces here. There is what is known as the divisor. That is what is doing the dividing, which is the 2.4, and the dividend. That is what is being divided. What this all hinges on is the divisor. Your dividend can be anything, because we know we're going to be going into long division, we can have decimals in long division, but we cannot divide with a decimal. So that's where it becomes a little bit problematic. So we need to make sure that we actually have this grouped properly. Your divisor in long division is what is doing the dividing. That goes outside of your radicand there. And then your dividend comes underneath. And now, in order to divide, we have to ask ourselves, how many decimal moves must I move this decimal in order for the divisor to be a whole number? This must be a whole number. So I would have to move it one space to the right here to make it 24, which I then have an equal movement inside for my dividend. So essentially what we're doing, when we move a decimal place to the right, we are multiplying by a power of 10. So I'll bring that back in a minute. Just keep this in the back of your mind while we do this. So our new problem now becomes 24 into 367.8. And now we just follow long division as we always have. 24 doesn't go into 3, but it does go into 36. It goes in one time. 1 times 24 is 24. And now, remember, this is repeated subtraction. So I'm left with 12. Okay, obviously, I can't divide 24 into 12, so I drop down my 7. And now it's 24 into 127. Okay, so you have to start thinking, how many times does that go into 127? Okay, if you know if you want to start thinking about it this way, you could start testing and start saying, all right, well, maybe it's 24. Let's test 24 times 5. Maybe that will get me close because I know 25 times 5 is 125. Maybe this would work as well. And as you go through here, you actually find out it's 120. Perfect. 5. 24 times 5 we know is 120. We subtract. We're left with 7. Drop that 8 as well. That is no different. 78. And we keep following the same process. Now remember that decimal? That is going to keep the same place in our solution. So now we go 24 into 78. Goes 3 times. We're left with 72. Ran out of space. And now I have a 6. Now I have to keep going because I didn't get a repeating decimal or a terminating decimal. So I can just infinitely add zeros on the end here. So I just keep continuing that pattern. 24 into 60. 24 goes into 60 twice. I ran out of room. I apologize. I'll do it on the side over here. So 60, that becomes 48. 60 minus 48 ends up becoming 12. And we know what's going to happen. A 0 is going to drop in here. A 0 comes over here. 24 into 120 is 5. We are done. When you get this solution for division, you do not need to put the decimals back in because what you did was you multiplied both your numerator and denominator by a power of 10. So that just moved the decimal one space to the right. And we know anything about with fractions, if you multiply by 10 over 10 or 100 over 100, that's just multiplying a number by 1. So you're really not changing the fraction at all. You're just making it look a little bit different. Maybe you want to think about it as putting on some makeup or something like that. And it's going to look a little different to make our work a lot simpler. Okay? Hope that helps. Check in with your teachers when you need any more assistance.